History is full of long, brutal wars that have shaped the world. But sometimes the most incredible conflicts are the ones that hardly seem like wars at all. One of the most remarkable, and most overlooked, conflicts in history is the Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896, a war that lasted only 38 minutes. Yes, you heard that right, 38 minutes. It's the shortest war in history. But what exactly happened, and how did a full-fledged military conflict end in such a short amount of time? It all started on the east coast of Africa, on the small island of Zanzibar. This tiny archipelago was once a prosperous trading hub strategically located off the coast of modern-day Tanzania. In the late 19th century, Zanzibar was a powerful sultanate, but it was also in the middle of a geopolitical struggle between European colonial powers. At the time, the British Empire was expanding its influence across Africa and the world, consolidating power in regions that were valuable for trade and resources. The British had been meddling in Zanzibar's politics for some time, and by 1896, they had a vested interest in the Sultanate's leadership. The ruler of Zanzibar at the time, Sultan Khalid bin Bargash, was an ambitious man who had come to power after the sudden death of his predecessor. However, the British were not happy with his rise to power. They favored another candidate, Hamoud bin Mohammed, who was more sympathetic to British interests. They demanded that Sultan Khalid step down and let Hamoud take the throne. Khalid refused. This refusal would set the stage for one of the shortest and most unexpected wars in history. On the morning of August 27, 1896, Sultan Khalid's palace was surrounded by British warships, and the British ultimatum was clear. Either he stepped down, or they would take military action. Khalid, not one to bow easily, chose defiance. He fortified his palace, prepared his small army, and braced for a confrontation. But here's where things get truly shocking. Despite the ferocity of the bombardment, very little ground combat actually took place. Sultan Khalid's forces were no match for the British, and within 38 minutes the palace had been completely destroyed, the Sultan's army was defeated, and Khalid was forced to flee. The British, who had only suffered 1 or 2 casualties, didn't lose a single soldier in combat. In fact, most of the casualties came from the Zanzibari side. Estimates say that about 500 Zanzibari soldiers and civilians were killed during the conflict, and another 50 or so were wounded. The sheer brutality of the British artillery meant that even though there was no real battle in the traditional sense, no extended firefights or ground combat, Zanzibar had lost. So, next time you think about the great wars of history, remember this: sometimes the battles we remember the least are the ones that leave the biggest marks on history. The Anglo-Zanzibar War may have been short in duration, but its impact on the people of Zanzibar and the colonial powers of Europe was undeniable.